Welcome to Audit the Audit, where we sort out the who and what and the right and wrong of police interactions. Today's video covers recording the police, crime scene interference, and police protection limitations and comes to us from News Now San Diego's channel. Be sure to check out the description below and give them the credit that they deserve. Let's dive right in and audit the audit. This video, originally posted on July 12, 2019, shows Auditor James Playford attempting to follow several St. Johns County Sheriff deputies as they conduct a search for a suspect, where he is contacted by two deputies.
I'm allowed to.
You are interfering with a criminal investigation, sir. They're looking for a suspect.
And I'm allowed to follow them. By law, I'm allowed to follow them.
As the first of many parallel circuit court rulings, the 2011 First Circuit case of Gilk v. Cuniff established that recording the actions and activities of police officers in the performance of their public duties is a form of free speech through which individuals may gather and disseminate information of public concern. The free discussion of public affairs in general is a fundamental right under the First Amendment, and many cases brought to higher courts have affirmed that right. The ability to observe the functions of government in general, and the agents of government in particular, is an essential component of the public's right under the First Amendment, whether it is simply observed or captured by video, photograph, or audio recordings. This right is extended to recording of any police activity performed in public or where an individual otherwise has a legal right to be present. According to the 1974 Supreme Court case of Pell v. Percunior, the public has the same rights to record police activities as the press.
Sir, you need to come back up here and film.
I am allowed to follow them anywhere in public.
Okay, sir.
I've been working in the news for 20 years.
Yes, on the
I'm sure-
024,
okay.
we're getting a phone call at 87 Catalina Circle. A male subject carrying a large black gun and a backpack behind the 1020 Street.
Where's Catalina Circle? Okay, do me a favor, sir.
Description on
I'm allowed to follow them by law. What's your name?
It's Sergeant Emmer.
Sergeant Emmer. By law, I can follow them anywhere they go.
While the Gilk case did clearly establish and reinforce the public's right to record the police, it also declared that the right is not absolute and may be limited by reasonable time, place, or manner restrictions. The case also established that those restrictions must be content neutral, narrowly tailored to serve a significant governmental interest, and leave open reasonable alternative avenues of communication. For example, requesting that someone filming move out of the street and onto a sidewalk for their safety is a reasonable time, place, and manner restriction that serves the significant governmental interest of public safety and leaves open the reasonable alternative avenue of communication by recording from a different but safer location. The deputy ordering Mr. Playford to leave is acting within his authority, as Mr. Playford is interfering with their search for a suspect. The deputy invoked the doctrine of reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions by informing Mr. Playford that he was interfering with an ongoing investigation and telling him to move to a different location to film.
Sir, come here. You're not free to leave.
Am I being detained?
Yes, you are.
For what?
You are not.
A person's desire or intent to observe, photograph, or video record police activity does not entitle the recorder to trespass on public property, place themselves or others in physical danger, enter a private dwelling or similar space, enter a marked crime scene, or otherwise enter any area not accessible to the general public. Persons making recordings may not do so in a manner that materially interferes with police activities. Interference may be interpreted in various ways depending on individual officer perspectives, but may not be based solely on the act of recording alone.
Not allowed. Sir, here's the problem. You are following these officers directly behind them as they got a canine. It is dangerous for you. That dog may turn around and
My
bite you.
safety is none of your concern. That's the law. The Supreme Court's ruled on that.
Mr. Playford is correct that law enforcement officers are under no constitutional obligation to protect citizens. The Supreme Court has affirmed multiple times that the Due Process Clause does not impose a special duty on the state to provide services to the public for protection against private actors if the state did not create those harms. And lower courts have ruled that the duty to provide public services is owed to the public at large, and absent a special relationship between the police and an individual, no specific legal duty exists. Although officers are not legally obligated to protect citizens, they are responsible for protecting themselves and individuals in their custody. The deputies interacting with Mr. Playford are concerned with Mr. Playford's safety, but they are also concerned with their own safety and the possibility of legal action being taken against them if Mr. Playford is collaterally injured during their investigation. The assertion that Mr. Playford's safety is none of the deputies' concern is a red herring, because if Mr. Playford were to be bitten by their canine unit, the deputies could be held responsible.
The Supreme Court's ruled on that. I've been working in the news for many years. Right now, what's going on? You are interfering with me and my ability to capture the scene as it's happening. I've got 2 cases that have been to the Supreme Court already, and I've got a third one, American News and Information Services.
Well, your shirt says bacon.
Well, I do little stupid things for him. But I do breaking news, and what you're doing right now is in direct violation. I've been here a couple years and you guys don't even know my name. Please do not bother me again.
Sir, I'm going to tell you one more time. If you come any further past this way, I'm going to put you in jail, okay?
For what,
you
sir?
are interfering with a criminal investigation.
I'm not interfering with nothing, sir.
Although federal code regarding interfering with a criminal investigation does not specifically address the circumstances surrounding live crime scenes which constitute a violation, state codes tend to focus more on the acts which interfere with the day-to-day work of police. Florida Code 843.02 of resisting an officer without violence could grant Sergeant Emmer the authority to arrest Mr. Playford for refusing to leave an active crime scene. This code is fairly vague, and different courts may have different interpretations of the scope and limitations associated with the law, but it is likely that most courts would side with Sergeant Emmer's interpretations, given that he is expressing a legitimate concern for the safety of Mr. Playford and his fellow officers, and not basing his orders on the act of recording alone.
We are having a media center for you that's going to be set up.
Sir, the media center is for information. My job is to get film of the bad guy.
Okay.
You can't
No,
stop
not.
me. Yes, it
I
is.
can. Try me, and I'll
What
put
is
your in jail.
What is your ID number, sir? You might want to call Chuck concerning me.
I don't care, Chuck, buddy. You don't concern me. I will put you in jail. We have a suspect.
And I will sue you.
I don't care. In this
You
area,
will when we finish. Call my lawyer. Her
we have
name's
a
Rachel
suspect
Beard.
In this area. If
Correct.
you come in here, I'm going to put you in jail for interfering
Sir,
with
just
the law.
because there's a suspect in this area doesn't mean this whole area is signed off.
A crime scene is any location that may be associated with the occurrence of a crime, or which contains physical evidence that is pertinent to a criminal investigation. Crime scenes are not limited to a specific location, but can be any person, place, or object associated with the criminal behaviors that occurred. According to the U.S. Department of Justice's 2013 Crime Scene Investigation Guide for Law Enforcement Officers, the standard procedure for initial responding officers on a crime scene is to control all individuals at the scene and prevent individuals from altering or destroying physical evidence by restricting movement, location, and activity, while ensuring and maintaining safety at the scene. The guide goes on to say that controlling the movement of persons at the crime scene and limiting the number of persons who enter the crime scene is essential to maintaining the scene integrity, safeguarding evidence, and minimizing contamination. It would be difficult to convince a court that Mr. Playford did not present a threat to the integrity of the crime scene which the officers were attempting to establish.
You are not only taking away our time from looking for
No,
a
sir.
suspect.
No, sir. You're messing with my time.
Stay right here, okay?
You can't give that order. You can't stop people from coming in and out of here. I want your ID number.
353.
Mr. Playford was not arrested, and the officers went their separate ways after a brief exchange of vulgarities. Overall, Mr. Playford gets an F for failing to comprehend the distinction between the freedom of the press and the limiting factors associated with an active crime scene. The First Amendment right to record the police is not without its limits, and it is not only irresponsible and illegal to disrespect those time, place, and manner restrictions set forth by the Supreme Court, but it simultaneously robs the auditing community of its legitimacy and public trust, which are parallel to the very injustice that the First Amendment movement is designed to combat. If the rights associated with the First Amendment are to be taken seriously, then so should the limitations of those rights. The goal of any civil rights movement should be progressive and educational and not inflammatory and divisive, and the goal of any protest associated with constitutionally protected activities should be to raise awareness to the cause. The police do not need any help demonizing themselves, as they do that just fine on their own. Sergeant Emer gets an A for keeping his ego in check while dealing with Mr. Playford's trivial interruptions. Sergeant Emer could have arrested Mr. Playford, charged him with various frivolous crimes, and, at the very least, forced Mr. Playford to undergo a lengthy, fruitless, and exhaustive legal battle. The sergeant acted within the boundaries of his authority and made a sincere effort to de-escalate the situation and ultimately walked away, which is something that many law enforcement officers struggle to do. Emer also had no qualms with Mr. Playford's right to record the police and seemed legitimately concerned with the safety of all those who were involved. It is rare to find an officer whose ego will allow them to be disrespected and not take retaliatory action. Let us know if there's an interaction or legal topic you would like us to discuss in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more police interaction content.